and the look on her
Oh
face.
my God.
Like the disappointment on her face. Anyway.
See, Jason, this is why, see, I'm a Southern woman, so I have no problem lying, white lies to protect people's feelings. I would
Uh-huh.
have been like, oh my God, it is the best I've ever had. It's so good that I ate it all in one day.
Welcome to the Marinade, a free-flowing conversation about the creative process with creative people. Each episode, we welcome musicians, actors, comedians, authors, visual artists, filmmakers, anyone who creates art to talk about how and why we make stuff. This is episode 193, and our guest is Emily Scott Robinson. Emily is a singer and songwriter who lives in Ouray, more on that in a few minutes, Colorado. NPR has said of her, quote, with her pure, bracing vocal set against an achingly somber piano, Emily Scott Robinson doesn't marinate in misery so much as summon the strength to venture up to a precipice and stand at, quote, the edge of something wild, unquote. Yep, that's Emily. She's a skilled songwriter who is dedicated to her craft, a powerhouse singer, and just a really fun conversation partner. I've wanted to make this conversation happen for years, and I'm just so grateful for the opportunity. We caught up via Zoom recently, her from her home in Colorado, and me from a hotel in Chattanooga, Tennessee, during my third annual Grounded Summer Tour. Check out this podcast feed for more on that experience. Y'all, this is such a pleasure, and I am honored to bring you my conversation with Emily Scott Robinson. For being so conscientious, but you sound good.
Great.
It'll all sound great on this end.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks though. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh my
How's it
God, my
going?
pleasure. It's going really well. I'm,
Good.
you know, let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb really quick. Um, I'm having a busier summer than I thought I would. I just made a new record, and so we're starting to kind of go into album release planning and all of that good stuff.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting and it's really cool. And but yeah, I'm doing well. My partner and I, after this interview, are gonna drive halfway to Denver and go camp tonight.
Oh,
Uh
word.
yeah. And then he's got like a work event tomorrow. And so I was like, I'm excited. I get to spend the evening in the woods. So
Oh, fun. Where are you camping? So I've s- a couple of summers in a row.
mhm.
My buddy and I, we haven't done it the last couple of years because of life, but
Yeah.
um, we go backpacking somewhere
Oh,
and
awesome.
5, 6 days in the backcountry usually.
Mhm.
And a couple years, we did in 2012, we did Colorado,
Oh,
something like that.
great.
And
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
like 2 or 3 years ago, we did it too.
Which
So,
part?
well, okay, so that's why I wanted to ask you where you're camping. So the first time we went, do you know where Ouray is? Hopefully I'm pronouncing
That's
that
where
right.
I live.
Oh, you live there?
Yeah.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. Nobody really knows what the proper pronunciation is. Most people locally say Uray.
Okay.
But upon first sight of that word, it only makes sense to pronounce it Uray.
Yeah.
So it's a Ute word, and nobody's super clear on exactly the pronunciation. But I live in Uray.
Okay, that's like the most stunning place in the world.
Oh, oh
It's
my
like
God, that's crazy that you've been here.
a couple of
It's
times.
a beautiful place, and it's also really small. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people skip it for Telluride.
Well, this was 2012. So this is,
Hmm.
I'm younger days. And we were trying to do the Weminuche Wilderness.
Yeah.
And it was that year, I'm pretty sure it was 20. No, you know what? That was 2011, I think.
Hmm.
And we were trying to do the Weminuche Wilderness. And that year, Colorado had record snowfall
Hmm.
in the winter. And so this was in June, but like the
Hmm.
snow hadn't melted
The snowpack was still really, yeah.
deep. And like
Yeah.
we couldn't see the trail. And we were like sinking down to our waist in snow.
Oh my
And it
God.
was me and my buddy Bill and my buddy Jason. And like
Yeah.
Bill and I've known each other forever, and we have very similar kind of. We're both pretty headstrong, and
Hmm.
Jason's like, he's kind of he's the go with the flow guy, and he's like he's important for me and Bill because otherwise we'll butt heads the whole time. And Bill's a
Yeah.
maniac. Like I'm risk averse. He is not. He will just like he's like calling us all these names because we weren't gonna go, that I won't repeat because we wouldn't go through this like this essentially like this death wish in the Womanish wilderness.
Uh-huh.
But like
Yeah.
I tell you that story to say that like we went to a bar the night before we were camping up,
Hmm.
overlooking the town is like that park. That's like a
Yeah.
natural amphitheater kind of
Yep. The
situation.
amphitheater.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah,
there's a
yeah.
campground up there.
Yes, we camped there. There's deer like will come up. They're all
Yeah.
over the place. We camped there the night before we embarked on this ill-fated hike, and so we went down to one of the local bars to have a beer and a bite to eat. And the bartender was this young guy, who just looked, ski bum like looking dude, right? And
Totally.
yeah, it just like fits the town, And he goes, he's like, "Well, what are you guys up to?" And we're like, "Oh, we're gonna go hike the Wimminoosh." And he looks at us and he goes, "That's some gnarly fucking wilderness, man."
I was gonna say also like the county search and rescue from 2011 thanks you for coming back down from
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
because it's like actually one of the things I grew up back east
Hmm.
and I did not encounter nature that could fuck you up the
Mm,
way nature can fuck you up out here. And
yeah.
like I've legit found myself in situations in the backcountry, like in the wilderness, where I'm like, this is dangerous. I
Hmm.
need to come down. Like like hiking in the summer, honestly, the snowpack here doesn't really properly clear until July,
Hmm.
into
Hmm.
July maybe. So like that's I'm risk aversion is what keeps us alive.
Yeah, I
So
seriously,
I appreciate that.
yeah, I mean, we hiked for 12 hours one day and we went like a half a mile as the crow flies.
Oh
And
my
yeah,
God.
yeah, and then I finally was like,
Yeah.
"Buddy, we got to get off this mountain." It was like
Hmm.
near 0 degrees that night, we were all bundled
Mm-mm.
up and like woke
That's
up with
not
like
fun either.
no, no. I mean, I like a
No.
little challenge,
Yeah.
but like that, man, that guy wasn't kidding. It is because we returned like 12 years later and we did
Hmm.
most of the hike that we had initially tried.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
same shit. Like it is gnarly wilderness and you have to
Yeah.
be smart about it because otherwise you will die out there. And
Yeah,
I'm not trying to
100%.
die
No,
yet.
dude, like people die here every single season.
Yeah.
Every summer, every winter, people die. Like
Yeah.
it's there's a great Edward Abbey quote from his book Desert Solitaire. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's
Mm-mm.
wonderful. And if you are somebody who loves to backpack and come out west, you'd love it. But he was one of the original members of the Monkey Wrench Gang, which was like an environmental activist group.
Uh-huh.
And this book is so great. And he talks about this mountain range, the San Juans. They're a very new mountain range in
Yeah.
the grand scheme of mountain ranges, and also they're very crumbly.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Like
hiked there too.
just piles of rocks. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so he said, the San Juan Mountains, which is this whole area, he's like, the San Juan Mountains are in a rush to get back to the sea.
Mm.
And it's a good way to put it. Like the snowpack's unstable, the mountains are unstable, the climbing is sketchy. And so it's like a beautiful place. And your risk aversion was the way to go. Yeah, because
Well,
June is no joke. June
uh,
is no joke.
it's not, and the payoff if you're smart about it is worth it. Like, uh,
Yeah.
now I'm already forgotten how to pronounce Ure. Ure
It's okay. It's okay.
is.
Really, locals fight about it.
Do
About
they
how to
really?
say it.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, some people will be like, if you're an old timer, you say Ouray, and other people are like, I've never heard Ouray in my life. This is a town of like 1,000 people.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is a tiny little for folks listening if you haven't been there, and they have these like ice caves, like or
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
you're like yeah.
There's an ice park, and they
That's
host
right.
the International Climbing Ice Climbing Festival in the winter,
Mm-hmm.
and there are these vapor caves from the hot springs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really, really cool place to come. And in the winter, it's just ice climbers here.
Oh wow, that's wild.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But oh my God, you picked such a cool place to come to the backcountry.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, fond memories. And what we ended up doing on that trip, and that's why I was gonna ask you
Yeah.
where you're gonna camp, because like what we ended up doing on that trip is we aborted that mission and then just sort of like drove and did like overnight hikes. We just did like 2 day hikes all across the state. So we
Oh,
got to see the whole state. We done in like Pagosa Springs area
oh
in the San
yeah.
Juans and hiked
Oh
through
my
there.
God.
Just oh my gosh, just and went to Crested Butte and like
Oh,
I
you hit
all
all my favorite places.
oh my gosh, it's just like and every turn
Yeah,
is stunning and like there's just oh my gosh, just such fond memories from Colorado.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
I like every corner of the state feels a little different to
Mm,
me. And I could spend my whole life here and not feel like I scratched the surface of the
mm,
wilderness and the public lands. We're gonna go camp tonight outside of Salida, which is on the Arkansas River. It's
okay.
about halfway between here and Denver on 285. It's in the Collegiate Peaks area
Okay. Oh, okay.
near
Right.
Mount
Okay.
Princeton.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and it's a really cool, it's like mostly a rafting town in the summer,
Mhm.
rafting and outdoors um it's just, it's a cool little town and it's halfway on the way. So we're like, yeah, let's grab a campsite. We're poor anyways. So
Yeah.
who can afford an Airbnb anymore? Like
Well,
nobody.
okay, so I was just thinking about this because I'm in a hotel tonight, but I'm on what I call my grounded
Yeah,
summer
I
tour,
was
you know.
listening to your latest episode.
Oh, cool.
You're out
Thank
on the
you.
road. So where are you right now?
I'm in Chattanooga right now.
Oh, I used to live
Yeah.
there. I lived there for a
Oh, nice.
year and a half. It
Gosh,
was
you've been
kind of
all over the
random.
place.
Yeah.
Um, I love this little town. Like I last night I went and had a burger at the Tremont Tavern.
Oh, yes. Oh
Yeah.
my God, they have such good burgers. And
It's the best burger.
I actually kind of got my earliest open mic night experiences in Chattanooga were at Tremont Tavern.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, they had this really um, just really vibrant open mic scene when I lived there. And I was
Okay.
there in like 2014 and 2015. And
Uh-huh.
at the time, I was just getting started writing my own music. So I used to play the open mics there.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so cool. Well,
It's
okay.
such a great spot. Yeah.
All of this, there's so many jumping off points for things that I wanted to talk to you about. And one of them was like, as I was doing some research for this, I read an article or an interview somewhere about like, it seems like you started playing music at a fairly young age,
Mhm.
but then the songwriting part of it like was shelved for a while. Is that
Yeah.
accurate? And then like, can you talk about maybe I'm interested in how you got back into the writing part and then like I can relate to that open mic thing, right? And then like the
Mhm.
decision when you're here in Chattanooga to like jump into the open mic and actually perform.
I got my start playing guitar and singing just in my bedroom as a high schooler. I
Mhm.
fell in love with both 60s female folk singers and 90s like indie folk singers. And so I was listening to a lot of like Joni Mitchell, but also a lot of Ani DeFranco and Indigo
Mhm.
Girls, Dar Williams, loving those songwriters. And so I would teach myself those songs just in my room. I taught myself to play guitar. Um, and I had this old Yamaha nylon string guitar
Mhm.
that I didn't think was really anything special at the time. And now I look back and I'm like, that's such a great guitar. Where did it go? Um,
Uh,
and but so I just learned covers. And I just wanted to learn how to play the songs that I loved, that I wanted to sing. And I would play little coffee shop gigs. I would play for my friends. I was a summer camp counselor, so I would play songs like that. And then when I got into college is when I started to explore songwriting just a little bit. Um, and also started to really absorb a lot more kind of older country songwriter voices. So it's when I like really got into Nancy Griffith and Emmylou
mhm.
Harris, Townes Van Zandt, um, you know, lots of the kind of 70s outlaw country scene. And so that's when I started to get like a little bit more of a country influence, even though I grew up in the South. My parents didn't really listen to a lot of country music.
Hmm.
Um, and so, but I tried songwriting. I wrote one song in college. I was like, oh, this is really good. This is my one song. But it was hard. I wasn't able to really write songs that like off right off the bat that were the caliber of the songs that I loved to
Mm.
play and listen to. And there's this great interview with Ira Glass from This American Life where he talks
Mhm.
about how the hardest thing about starting as an artist is that you have what you're aiming for, which is the great art that you love. But what you start making is never anywhere close. Like you're just bound to not love it,
Yeah.
but you have to start somewhere. And that the space between those things can be so large that it's completely overwhelming. And it was for me. And so I was like, oh, I just must not be good at this. But I didn't have anybody I knew who was really a songwriter and a like I didn't have anyone to demystify the creative experience for me and go
Mm.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, songs don't just come through perfectly. They are work. You got to work on them. And here's how you work on them. And you can work on them over time. And here's how you can really work on crafting a great chorus or really work on storytelling through a song. And, here are ballads. And this is the difference between chorus and refrain. Anyways, I didn't have any education in that field. And um, I left college. I had a degree in Spanish and history
Mm.
and Latin American studies. And I went pretty much straight into doing different jobs as I was a social worker for the, you know, five years, first 5 years out of college. And so I moved around the country, but I took two different social work jobs that I had in Colorado, and I moved to Telluride for one of them, and fell in love with Telluride, fell in love with living in Southwest Colorado. Met my first husband. We were married for almost 10 years.
Mm.
And I was working as a social worker, feeling pretty burned out. And then a friend of mine invited me. There was an opening at this thing called Song School, which is this 4-day songwriting camp at Planet Bluegrass up in Lyons, Colorado. And Planet Bluegrass is the promoter that puts on Telluride Bluegrass Festival,
Mm.
but they also do Rocky Mountain Folks Fest, which is more of a songwriter folk festival. They do all kinds of different things. And my friend said, you're feeling burned out on your job. You have a little vacation time. Come with me. It's just a couple days. And so I went. And for the very first time, I was in a group of people who all amateurs and professionals who all loved songwriting and loved the craft of it and were working on it. And I took some songwriting classes with great teachers. And I was like, oh, there's a there's a whole world I can learn from here. I don't just
Mm.
have to, I mean, it sounds kind of like a very simple epiphany to have, but, and it was pretty simple. I mean, it wasn't easy, but it was simple. Songwriting, sometimes songs just come through, they drop in, and you're like, whoa, where did that come from? That's great. It doesn't really need much work. But a lot of great songs require a tremendous amount of focus and listening
Mm.
and inward work and like they take time to like marinate and they just really take time and work and so I started to learn how to do that and I was so lit up by that week with all these other songwriters and on top of that I was meeting songwriters who were indie folk touring singer-songwriters. They had their own careers that they built pretty much from the ground up. Some of them had agents, some of them didn't, but they were making it work. Like they were
Mm.
actually working as musicians. And I was like, wow, I've never like had any proximity to somebody who actually did this for a living.
Mm.
I just didn't, I only saw super famous people. And then there was me who was like doing gigs on the weekends at, you know, breweries and like busking on a sidewalk during the Bluegrass Festival. And so that's kind of where my dream was born, was at song school. I was like, oh,
Cool.
maybe I could do this. And I didn't really know what that would ask of me. And my dreams were pretty small in the beginning. But after that experience, that was in 2013, I started intentionally focusing on songwriting. And over the next couple of years, I wrote my very first set of original songs. Um, I moved to my ex-husband and I we got married in Telluride. We traveled for about 6 months around Eastern Europe, where he's from originally, on our honeymoon. And I bought a shitty little guitar, a shitty little Alvarez at a store in Bulgaria. And I took it around with me and just wrote some of my first songs. And when we moved back to the States, we moved to Chattanooga because he was a rock climber. It's a huge climbing destination. And I was like, oh, this will be great. We have family in the South. I'll be within driving distance of Nashville to stay connected to some of my friends that I had met in this scene. And but I was like, if I move to Nashville, I'm gonna get all of my little tiny dreams crushed because Nashville is so stacked with talent. You could just walk through the airport and feel like if this person is playing a gig at 6 a.m. in the airport and they're this good, how will I ever make it? Like
Yeah.
I actually think about like this is literally like no knock on the airport performers. The people who perform at BNA are so fucking good.
Yeah.
And every time I walk through, I'm like, God damn. Huh. And they
Yeah.
also like a lot of them make really good money. So this is to say, like, I think I would have been very overwhelmed
Mm.
and very insecure if I moved to Nashville early on. So we were in Chattanooga. We stayed in Chattanooga for a year and a half. I worked part-time as a Spanish interpreter at the hospital. And the other part of the time I worked on gigging, recording my first songs, entering songwriting contests, going to open mic nights, working up banner, like just doing it all from the
Mm.
beginning.
Mm.
And then my ex-husband worked at a really nice restaurant in town, and we just lived really cheaply. We saved up cash and we bought an RV and actually moved into it in 2016 and that's when I kicked off. That's when I like finally quit my day job and started doing music full time. And that was kind of like so Chattanooga was sort of a launch pad for us. It was
Mm.
an affordable place to live. It was a good place for me to kind of get a start, get my feet under me. And yeah, that's the that's the beginning to take off.
So okay, gosh, so much gold here. So I want to I want to ask you about the Eastern Europe part. Like,
Yeah.
what? Because I know there are parts of the world that um I think of Scandinavia, for example,
Hmm.
that absolutely love American folk music and country music um and like obsessive. Like we have fans,
Yeah,
like the Marinade has fans in Scandinavia, folks who
I'm sure
listen
you
that,
do.
that are
Yeah.
like I'm grateful for it, and then we interact and it's just always like kind of fascinating to me, that like interest in sort of the places that you and I grew up,
Yeah. Oh
from
yeah.
folks overseas. What was like, are you at that point you're writing songs, right? So are you playing your stuff like as you're going through Europe? Or are you
Mm.
playing covers? Like what and then also were there venues or were you busking? Like what was that whole thing like?
I wasn't even gigging around Europe. We were
Okay.
just traveling and like we were just traveling around, visiting places,
Okay.
rock climbing, hiking, exploring. I was just getting started writing my own songs. And I mean, we were in like the Balkans, like we were
Mm-hmm.
in like Croatia and Slovenia. So I had no like idea how to gig there and didn't need
Yeah.
to and wasn't planning on it. I was just like writing. It was just songwriting and
Mm.
and like sometimes pulling my guitar out at a hostel and like
Mm-hmm.
playing for folks there. But in those early days, it was mostly like for the first few years that I was really doing this seriously, most of my sets were covers with my own originals kind of like sprinkled in there
Mm-hmm.
because they didn't have enough originals to play a full set.
Right,
Like I
right.
didn't. I was so excited when finally, probably by 2017, I was like, my God, I have enough of my own songs to play a whole show just of my own music. It took
Yeah.
that long to write.
Yeah.
And so yeah, Europe was just hoofing it around in like a
Okay.
station wagon and going to like national parks and being mistaken for Germans all the time. They were like, they did not think we were Americans. They always would speak to us right away in German. It was really before like Americans figured out Croatia existed.
Oh, so
So
Croatia is like
yeah.
that's one of my dream destinations. In fact,
Oh, it's
I'm planning a
awesome.
trip for next summer to Croatia. I fell in love with the Balkans when I worked at the international during law school. I had an internship in The Hague at the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia. And
What?
yeah,
Oh my God.
so I didn't make it over there. I made it to Czech Republic, but I didn't make it down into the
Wow.
Balkans. But I met tons of Croatians and Bosnians, and because it's at the
Yeah.
tribunal, so like we were defending a guy who was Croatian who ended up getting the stiffest sentence in international justice history, actually.
What?
Yeah, for the Civil
Whoa.
War, yeah. And
That's
yeah, but like
crazy.
Bulgarians and
Hmm.
all these like I just fell in love with the
Yeah.
culture, like the red pepper spread that they have that they call it
Oh
something
my
different in
God.
every spot.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's
They
like
call it like
it's
Lutenica and
Lutenica.
Ivar and yeah.
Ivar.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
Ivar in Croatia. It's Lutenica in Bulgaria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Drinking
100%.
rakia and like
Oh
all
my God.
the yeah, all those folks. I fell in love with the culture, and I just
Oh,
haven't been able to make it over there. But that's why I wanted to probe that experience for you
that is
because like
so cool.
yeah, I really want to make it over there. That's
Oh my
on my
God.
bucket list for sure.
I spent a lot of time in Bulgaria because that's where my
Mm.
ex-husband is from, like over the
Mm.
course of our marriage. And this is totally unrelated to music, but I love how different cultures, when something like when a food, for example, is very specific and central to a culture, um, then like you have appliances that you've never seen before that are like based on that food. So red peppers over in Eastern Europe are amazing. There's
Yeah.
so many different varieties. They're not genetically modified. They're definitely not organic, but they're still delicious. Or if they're organic, they're not labeled that way. But all they have such flavor. They don't taste anything like bell peppers taste like water compared to those red peppers that they use
Mhm.
in Lutenitsa. So I always thought it was totally fascinating that my ex-husband's mom had this little thing that you could buy in any appliance store, any kitchen store called a chushkapek. And it's like, it sort of looks like an air fryer, but it's for roasting and blackening red peppers. And it has four little containers, like four little slots, and you put the peppers in each one and you stick it in and you turn it on and it like roasts them perfectly and also steams them. And then you just peel the skins off and you have that like roasted red pepper. Oh my God. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I could find that in the States. I'm sure now I could, but like, I just, it was a whole part of my life and a really special one, a really
Yeah.
great one.
Do you want to hear a heartbreaking story involving red pepper spread?
Oh no,
Um,
yeah.
I believe she was Bosnian. I'm trying to remember. But I worked with this woman who was like, so I'm on the Association for Defense Counsel. So
Hmm.
basically, like, I was an intern under attorneys that were defending someone accused of some pretty serious war crimes, right?
Yeah.
And so our team, like a lot of our team, some of us were Americans, but then a lot of the team was from Eastern Europe, and we
Hmm.
had sort of like paralegal, essentially, let's call it, that this middle-aged woman from the Balkans, and she I kept raving about the food and I kept raving about the red pepper spread and so she like toiled all day to make me homemade red pepper spread. It was like the sweetest thing, right? And she
Oh.
surprised me. She didn't tell me she was going to do it. She shows up with this jar that she's like, and apparently it takes a while to make. And so she's like
Hmm.
spent the whole day in the kitchen. She's made this for me and I'm so excited. And I'm staying in my little apartment in The Hague and I put it in the door of the tiny little fridge that I had, and then I opened the door and it was like this kind of rickety fridge, and I just happened to put it in the exact wrong spot, and it as I opened the door it fell before I could even taste it,
No.
Emily, and it broke all over the
Oh,
floor.
that
Just
is so
this woman spent
sad.
all day making this delicacy,
Oh my God.
and
Ugh.
then she asked me about it later, like how are you enjoying it? And I'm just not good at lying. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at like protecting people's feelings by telling them a white lie. Like, I'm just not good at it. I was just like, I'm so sorry, but this is what happened. And the look on her
Oh
face,
my God.
like the disappointment on her face. Anyway.
See, Jason, this is why, see, I'm a Southern woman, so I have no problem lying, white lies to protect people's feelings. I would have
Uh-huh.
been like, oh my God, it is the best I've ever had. It's so good that I ate it all in one day.
Uh-huh.
It's no more. It's no
Yeah,
more.
yeah.
I'm so sorry about that.
Yeah, it's such a bummer, but I don't know. Anyway, it's one of those things, those like and I think this is a southern thing too, because at least if you grew up in the church. Did you grow up in the church?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a Presbyterian church, so it wasn't really like the
Okay.
church. Like I
Okay.
wasn't Baptist or anything.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. So I grew up Southern Baptist, and
Okay. All right.
so I got that guilt.
Yeah. I went to
Um,
Furman, by the
yeah.
way, in
Yeah, yeah,
Greenville, South
yeah.
Carolina, which
Yeah.
used to be a Baptist school. So go
Right,
ahead.
right. Yeah, go Paladins.
I know. Weirdest name. I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. I know it's one of those weird pieces of trivia that I have filed away in my head because like a lot for
Yeah.
whatever reason I was born in Kentucky but I grew up in Ocala, Florida, in Central Florida.
Oh, okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Were you
and
guys horse people?
no, it's funny. Like
Oh,
I'm from Kentucky originally, and I grew up in horse country in Ocala. Good,
yeah.
good on you knowing that pice of trivia.
I don't
And
know anyone in Ocala who's not a horse person. So.
yeah, well, I've ridden a horse like 4 times
Oh
in my
man.
life. No, and never in Ocala.
Oh, God. I think you got to be pretty damn rich to ride horses in Ocala. So,
Yeah, it's a whole separate,
oh,
it's an interesting
it
thing because like it's a
is.
separate culture. Like
Yeah.
I didn't I mean I dated a couple horse girls and just decided that wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Um it's a different world like and the part of town that the horses are in, like the farms are
hmm
all kind of out in a different area from where
Yeah.
the rest of us
The
regular folk,
commoners.
the commoners live, yeah.
Okay, so you grew up in the church, you were saying.
Oh, well, I was saying like
Okay.
that moment with the woman where I ruined the red pepper spread. It's one of those things that, that was in 2000. Let's see, I was there in 2008 and I still like once a year or so think about that moment and feel bad about it.
Oh.
I
Yeah,
still have
that's
that
how you
guilt,
knew
you
you
know?
grew up. Yeah, that's how you knew you grew up. Yeah, immersed in
Yeah.
evangelical
Right,
Christianity.
right, exactly. Well, I wanted to ask you about spirituality because when I
Mhm.
listen to your music, first of all, I just absolutely love your records.
Thank you.
And I've spent a lot of time with the last two, especially. And it was fun to like revisit them because I've been listening for years to your music, but to revisit them in preparation for this conversation has been really special because I like got to do another dive back into this really rich catalog of yours. I just think it's so wonderful.
Thanks,
And
Jason.
yeah, for sure. And there's just a lot of like uh maybe not necessarily direct spiritual references, but like a
Mhm.
spiritual feel to so much of your music, the lyrics, the way that you express yourself with your singing. And I'm just interested in like your relationship with sort of existence and spirituality.
Totally. I feel when it like one of those people who uh I like avoided religious trauma as a
Good for
kid.
you.
I feel super lucky. I grew up in
Yeah.
this really like progressive, inclusive for its time, um, Presbyterian church.
Hmm.
And I had, I think like when you're a teenager and especially growing up in the church, I had a period of time where I was very, very, very devoted to the Christian faith.
Hmm.
And I also was like, this is kind of when from like 15 to 18, I was looking for a lot of like black and white answers. In my ways of understanding the world and, pain and how do you prevent pain, right? Like, and I was incredibly lucky to have leaders in my church who very gently refused to give me black and white answers to those questions.
Wow.
And that's kind of miraculous.
What a gift.
It was such a gift. And, they would talk about like, you know, inviting those questions and inviting in mystery and like taught us contemplative spirituality practices around like prayer and meditation that were very rich and deep
Mm-hmm.
and probably a little bit too heady for a lot of the kids in the youth group. But like for me, I just really felt deeply connected to spirit, to God, to life. I felt like I had a purpose. I felt like I had gifts and a calling.
Mm.
And I felt like I had a calling as like some kind of in some sort of healing capacity. Because I loved talking to people. I loved making people feel better. I loved prayer and quiet reflection. I loved scripture and deep spiritual and theological things. And as I got older and kind of went through my college years and into my 20s, um, like in college, I lived in an intentional ecumenical Christian community for 2 years. It was this house off campus. And for people who don't know what ecumenical means, it just means like not specific to a certain tradition.
Mm-hmm.
So it means like every range of Christianity. So, um, and I don't even know that I would have called myself a Christian at the time. I just
Mm.
was really interested in living in intentional community. And so, you know, we had people who were from Catholic backgrounds all the way to like sort of recovering. It was a progressive community. So we
Yeah.
had some like, you know, folks who were recovering from very conservative uh super, super fire and brimstone upbringings in an evangelical church. And we're looking for a more spacious and accepting and loving version of God.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I lived there for 2 years, and we invited all these different speakers from all these different faith traditions, not just Christianity, to come and speak at the house and have dinner and sit with students. And it was this really like beautiful exploratory type of community. And um, it was really special. And hospitality was a big thing for us, inviting people in. We had a library, we had a community garden, we had a big kitchen, we cooked meals for people. And as I'm describing this, it sounds kind of culty,
I
but
mean,
it
it's
was
hard to talk
yeah,
about God without sounding
yeah,
culty. I don't
exactly.
I don't think there's a way to do it without it eventually
Totally.
going there, you know?
100%. And it was genuinely, it was this kind of religious group that, or this like religious affiliate, or this like, what is this, right? Like an affinity group, I think is what they're called now, where we were not recruiting people. It was just a place for folks who were at a largely like culturally Christian university
Yeah, yeah.
to have a place to escape to that wasn't like campus outreach or Fellowship of Christian Athletes or these like pretty straightforward, conservative, heteronormative groups. And so ours was kind of this like progressive enclave of people
Hmm.
who you know, a lot of folks ended up going on to divinity school. And so I felt this, I've always felt this just like deep sense of like peace and connection when I think about God or spirit. And then through my journey as a social worker, which I was a job I loved, but also it was a job that felt like it used certain gifts of mine, but then other gifts were just kind of like gathering dust, like my gift as a
Mm.
storyteller and a performer and a singer.
Mm.
And I felt really depleted working in these nonprofit spaces. And I started to think to myself, you know, like maybe like healing and being of service is something I can really channel through music.
Wow.
And when the songs started coming through, the types of songs I was writing, and I could see and I was performing them and I could see the like impact they were having on people, that felt like, oh yeah, this is totally the ticket. I'm like giving something to people. I genuinely think of this as like a calling,
Hmm.
um, and and a and like a journey, a path, a vocation. And I very often like so I've learned about a lot of different traditions. I've studied shamanism, I've studied like meditation and mindfulness. I've gone through a lot of different experiences of wisdom traditions and
Mm,
studied a lot of them. And and they've all made my life richer and deeper. And I very often I would say that I sometimes feel like I'm praying all the time, right? Because I'm just thinking and asking and surrendering. And I very often like don't know my faith in this journey um like helps me get through the periods of great unknown. Um, it took me 4 years to write this album that I just recorded.
mhm,
I went through divorce during that time. I felt like I was in such a desert, spiritually and creatively, because I was sad. I was like grieving all these different things. Life was changing. I was falling in love again. Everything was looking different. And I just thought, like, I don't know if I'll ever feel like writing a song again.
mhm,
And but I had to just trust that that would come through if it needed to. And the ups and downs of this career, especially when it comes to providing for myself as like a human, like paying my bills, income, I really had to trust and surrender and ask and just often say, like I try, like I give these songs, I give this away. I pray for these songs to go out and meet anyone who needs them, to find everyone who needs them.
mm,
And I like knit these intentions and prayers into my music. And and then I say like, and just please take care of me.
mm,
Like, please just let me keep a roof over my head. And if not, please let me have a place to go. Like, please let me have money to buy food. And maybe, please may I like I just feel very much like I'm surrendered in this beautiful way. To me, surrender is just trust
mm,
that I'm just on this life path and that all of it is a blessing and the hard parts are a blessing and the beautiful parts are an exhale. And I actually have a song on my new record about this. It's called Bless It All. And
mm.
it's like just it's like a tidy little country song, right? It's like three verses, two refrains. But when I wrote it, I just like I was like, oh, I said what I wanted to say, which is that like
Ah,
I'm just like we bless like um the moments of like complete loneliness and
mm,
terror, and those dark nights are a blessing too. And we bless these moments of connection and we bless these moments of overwhelm and we bless this luck when it comes. And so for me, creating, writing, recording with people, performing on the road, that is so connected. I feel so connected to God, to spirit, to life when I'm doing that. And that keeps me going like every day. It's so special. It's like the best job in the world. I
that
feel
is
so lucky.
incredible. All that is so incredible, and thank you for sharing it. Like when I'm super excited for the new record. Um,
I think you'll like it.
yeah, I have faith that I will. Um, are you able to? So I'm asking the following question as like
Mhm.
almost like as a call for advice also because
Yeah.
um I'm about a year and a half removed from a 10-year relationship.
Hmm.
And we weren't technically married, but we were legal domestic partners. So we had the paperwork
Yeah.
and that and the mortgage and the whole bit. Um, and that feeling, you talked a little bit about it there, but that feeling, if you've never been through it, folks, like when something like that ends, it's completely devastating, right? Like
Yeah.
you don't know which way is up. I didn't think I was gonna survive. Like
Mhm.
I wasn't gonna harm myself, but I legit like thought, well, I probably have like 6 months left. Like I'm not gonna make it on my own without her. Like I'm not gonna make it. And now I look back a year and a half later, And I still have days, and that's the weird thing about grief, right? Is it
Hmm.
like it's not linear and it will just
Right.
hit you one day. And I had a day
Yeah.
like about a week ago where it just hit me really hard. But most days I'm good. Most days I'm like,
Yeah.
I've moved on. I'm moving on with my life. But that first little bit is like, it feels impossible.
Yeah.
And so, like with the new songs, like, were you in that time writing, like when your marriage first ended? Were you able to write, or are you now looking back on it and able to write? Can you talk about like the creative? Because like it is healthy. I'm now able to write songs. Like I've got a couple of songs about the whole thing
Yeah.
that I've written, and I'm able to play them out, and I don't break down, and I'm fine, and it's good, and it's really helpful.
Yeah.
It's cathartic to play it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, is the new record going to explore that specifically, or like, can you talk a little bit more about sort of how creatively you were impacted by that, and then falling in love again?
Man, first of all, I am sorry and kindred friend that you also walked through this
Mhm.
experience.
Yeah,
And and also I'm not sorry because we got to love and
yeah,
have that partnership and it made you who you are. And but it is utterly, it is like the earth underneath your feet has just dissolved when that ends. And I could not write about it for a really long time.
mm.
And it was like I couldn't even watch shows that were about love or marriage or dating or breakups or movies. Oh my God.
Emily, I couldn't watch anything but sports
Anything,
for like a year.
everything. Oh my God, same.
I couldn't watch a movie of any kind. I would break down. I would like project my relationship onto some shit that
Same every
like a
time.
monster movie, like
It was Netflix was a fucking minefield. It was a minefield. And I was like,
100%.
I cannot, like, I'm living through this. I cannot also watch it on TV. Like, it was very hard to figure out what the fuck I could watch and tune
Yes.
out on.
Yes.
And so
Thank
it
God I love
was,
baseball.
oh God. Yeah, thank God. So it was like it was breathlessly painful.
Yeah.
It was breathlessly painful. Um, and there was a lot of upheaval in my life. And
Hmm.
I want to echo what you said about grief not being linear, because this is also like in the same breath, I want to be honest, which is that like my ex-husband and I, our marriage had been ending for a while by
Yeah.
the time we separated. And we both started dating around the same time, new people, 6 months after our separation.
Mm.
And we both started falling in love again, which was this like beautiful thing happening at the same time as grief. And I just remember thinking, like, is it right for me to feel like this excited about new love? And at the same time, like I just fucked this first marriage all up in so many ways. And there's so many things I would do differently. And even if I'd done everything right, I don't think we'd still be married. And like I'm learning so much at the same time, all of that at the same time. And my partner now, who I now live with, who was falling in love with, had also recently gone through a divorce
Oh, wow.
of a long marriage for about 10 years. We were the COVID divorce people. We were in that wall. People either like got married or got divorced.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and we were like walking through that together and both in therapy and whew, it was everything everywhere all at once.
Mhm.
One of the only movies I could watch during that time as
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. I watched
What
that
a
one
great
too.
movie. God,
Yeah, yeah,
so
yeah.
good. Uh,
Yeah.
and so, okay. So when it came to songwriting, this is really funny that you asked this because my partner and I and his 8-year-old or 9-year-old son, who I'm now in a stepmom role to, we were just out at the hot springs the other night, a couple nights ago, and ran into my ex-husband, who I'm really good friends with still. And we all know each other.
Oh, wow.
And we got to visit for about 45 minutes and had the sweetest time visiting and catching up. My
Oh.
ex-husband is now engaged and is getting married this fall. Like, and everything like in our lives is like settled and in a sweet place now.
Hmm.
And like we just genuinely have a tremendous amount of love for each other because we were family, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
we're family.
Oh,
And
that's
he'll,
beautiful.
oh my God, he will always be family to me. Like we grew up together.
Hmm.
And so, okay. So he asked me this question that you asked in a very gentle way. I think he was just curious, but he was like, "Hey, you told me you just recorded your new album. How's it going? You know, how'd you feel about it?" Because he was so helpful and supportive of my career and all the years we were married. So I was like, "Oh, it's so great. I'm so happy with it. I can't wait to send it to you." And he said, I know when you recorded American Siren. So American Siren is the album that contains all of this like friction and grief that was happening for me right at the end of my marriage.
Mm-hmm.
And so all that stuff's kind of in American Siren,
Mm.
even though I did this stupid songwriter thing where I'm like couching it in other people's stories, but it's all mine.
Yeah, yeah.
All those feelings like were true for me. And so like I didn't hook up with a priest at a roadside
I was
motel.
so I was just gonna say
Don't worry.
I was just gonna say that's one of my favorite songs on the
Thank
record.
you. Oh my
And
God, I had so much fun writing
yeah.
that one.
There's a run there. There's a couple of songs in a row. If Trouble Comes a Looking and Let 'Em Burn.
Yeah.
Those back to back, I think, on the
Hmm.
record. And there's a run there where I'm like, man, I understand that these are characters, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
relatable shit in here. You
Yes,
know?
exactly. Exactly. And all of those parts are like in me,
Yeah.
like those stories, those feelings, like, and so Ruth, my ex, said, how do you feel about the songs? Like, I know the last time you recorded it was like a bit of a bumpier recording experience because it was COVID, and also like those songs were really full of everything that was happening for us. And he was like, how do you feel about the new ones? Is there anything from that period or is it like, and I said, Bruce, I'm on the other side. And
Mm.
they're all on the other side. They're all written from the healing side of that mountain that I had to climb and come back down from. And
Yeah.
so there is not a lot of divorce stuff. There's barely any in here. And it's actually like kind of a record about like life with grief and after grief and just the ways that like that kind of thing changes you and it like breaks your heart open in this bigger way and like you don't really want it to go back to being smaller. And that's
Mm.
kind of what this record is about. And there's a song that I wrote. It's a country duet called Cast Iron Heart.
Mm.
And I'm so excited about it.
Oh.
And it's about like love as you get older and love after you've been through shit and love after you've been like worn down to the bone and
Mm-hmm.
love in older age and all of these things. Like it's really from this period where I am now. And I had one song that was about my divorce or about my first marriage. It was a really shiny piece of writing that I polished, 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 polished. And I didn't really love it in the end. And I was going to put it on the record. And I was just like, I'm just feeling like kind of not great about this. There's no energy around it. I had no desire to sing it. Writing it was one thing, getting through writing it was good, but it didn't have like some life force energy that was calling to be recorded. And instead of putting that on the record, my friend Lizzie Ross, who was on my album Built on Bones,
Mm-hmm.
she's one of the witches on that, was in the studio with me singing harmonies and adding just like creative magic to the record. And she and I lost a mutual friend to suicide the week before we went into the studio. It was an old friend of ours from
I'm so
college.
sorry. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It was really surprising to both of us. And he
Mm-hmm.
was somebody who had introduced us to a lot of beautiful, he was incredibly like gentle spirit,
Mm.
almost of like another time.
Uh-huh.
And and he loved music. And when we were in college, he went to UNC Chapel Hill and I dated a guy there. So we used to spend a bunch of time together in college. And our friend David, who passed away, would lead these song circles, and like lead contra dances out at the barn and the farm where he worked in the summers. And like
Mm.
he was somebody who like brought people together in this really generous way. And Lizzie and I were both so we wanted to write a song for him. And we've also, I don't know if you've experienced this, Jason, but like I don't know what it is, but like I've lost a lot of people to suicide. Um,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and like our generation, um, I've lost some family members to suicide and friends, and we just wanted to write a song for him. And this song just like came through while we were
Mm.
working that week. And we wrote it on Thursday night and recorded it on Friday morning. And
Oh, wow.
it's like a very bright and beautiful and like ascendant song. Like Lizzie woke up in the middle of the night and like got a refrain that came in and she recorded on her voice memo and like brought it in the next day. I mean, it was we were super listening and tapped in and really sort of like asking David to guide us from the other side. Like, what is it that we can say about like life and losing you? And like what we're left with here and like maybe where you are and can you
Mm.
hear us? And it sounds like, oh, okay, I've written a song about suicide on my last record, American Siren, my cousin who was a veteran of Afghanistan. And that song was is incredibly heavy and sad. And um this song is not for some reason.
Yeah.
It's very lifting and like connected. And I think there's actually a lot on this record about feeling connected to people on the other side. I know you haven't heard it yet, so I'm
I
telling you these
know.
things
I'm
like
so you're getting me
uh,
so excited about it though. This
I
is a very good commercial for your forthcoming record.
thank you. I wrote a song called Time Traveler for my grandmother who passed away a little over a year ago. And she had dementia at the end of her life and the last couple years. And the like veil was very thin for her. And she was um living and talking like everybody who had already passed away was like right there with her in the room. And and it was really sweet. It was actually a silver lining because she had a lot of pain and anxiety and depression in her life. And so I really kind of framed it as like the last few years of her life, she felt like lighter and more childlike because she was time traveling. And she was like, her mother and her father and her siblings who had passed on were just hanging out with her. And her, you know, her second husband who had passed away was there too. And like,
Wow.
and so I think like this record really explores like we think we're so in control on this side, right? Of like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, in the material world as humans, and yet there's like so much happening within us and around us, and the veil is so thin, and like death looks one way to us in this body, but like maybe on the other side, it's a completely like gentle reabsorption experience into like love and light. And those people and their spirits are right here with us. And like that veil is as thin as we want it to be, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
so there's a lot about like grief and change on this record, but in this kind of like way where I felt like my divorce and the new love in my life and now like experiencing parenthood, like
Mm-hmm.
stepping into parenting, it was just like melted my ego, everything I thought I was right about, which is
Uh-huh.
beautiful when you let it
Uh-huh.
happen.
Mm-hmm.
And has like just broken open my heart really wide. And so when I talk about it, I'm just like on the verge of tears all the time because
Mm.
it's just so amazing and intense and awesome. And also, you know, I'm a big feeler. this record, I know I have like a reputation for making people cry with my music. This record, I can't even listen to it without like falling apart in like this cathartic way.
Oh, wow.
So I'm gonna have to start selling Kleenex on my shows.
Yeah, Emily Scott Robinson branded Kleenex. This is
Yes.
a merch idea. This is a great merch idea.
I thought we could do like ESR made me cry and then like have these little like
Oh, that's really
Kleenex.
good. Do you have
That's
that merch
really good.
already? Oh, that's really good.
We're designing it as we speak.
Okay, yeah, that's really, really good. And true.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me really like expound at length about all of that.
Oh,
Because
so
yeah.
grateful you went so deep on that. I'm always excited for your work, but now I'm even more fired up like that. Because I mean, one of the things that I talk about ad nauseum on here and in my life in general is like I'm
Mm,
terrified of death, and I think about it
yeah.
all day, every day. It's a constant struggle for me. I have to really. I'm in
Mm,
therapy. I've been in therapy for years, and uh, I work on it really. I work heavily on it, but like. I'm grateful for this conversation and the timing of it, and it kind of I love your approach to sort of the whole cosmic thing because it helps
mm,
me to hopefully get out of my own ego a little bit and think and my own need to control situations a little bit. Um, like my mother yesterday, last night, uh, was admitted to the emergency room,
oh,
and
sorry.
I think she's okay. But like it's been a hell of a like not quite 24 hours, um and so I've been really because that's my mom, like
Of course.
it's and we've had a complicated relationship, but she's been a great mom, and I've been
Yeah.
so fortunate. And since the breakup, I don't know how I would have done it all without my mom. Like my mom
Yeah.
was just like there for me every step of the way, and
Yeah.
call me if you need anything. I'm getting emotional thinking about it, but
Yeah. Same.
the idea of
Mm,
like her being in the hospital and the fragility of her life in her 70s, and then my father is in his 80s and has had health problems since his 50s. And so like it is a yearly occurrence that I'm either going to the hospital to visit one of my parents or having conversations with loved ones about like who's going to go, because I'm an only child. So like
yeah.
I was raised an only child at least, and I have a half sister, but she was much older than me. And so that the burden falls on me. And so like that all of that contributes to a further freaking out about my existence
Yeah.
because it feels like before long I'm not gonna have much family left. I have a small family, and it's gonna be down to my uncle. And my
Yeah.
grandma's in her 90s. She's my
Yeah.
hero. Uh, and it all falls kind of on me. And so like a lot of times I can get way too serious, especially having grown up an only child, way too serious about my own existence
Hmm.
and what happens at the end of life. So it's really beautiful to hear you articulate it the way that you're thinking about it, and that you're able to put that into song that I cannot wait to hear.
Oh
I'm
my
really
God.
excited for that because I think it'll because
Yeah.
music because when someone is as thoughtful of a songwriter as you are, and that whether or not, like we talked about characters earlier in If Trouble Comes a Looking, whether or not those characters are uh, direct reflections of you or me or anybody else, the ability to tell those universal stories and those universal themes in a way that really hits people, right? That's the goal of music anyway, right? For the
Yeah.
most part, but like really hits people. I mean, what you just described for your new record is precisely the battle like that I fight every day that will help me to process it. So I'm really
Yeah.
grateful that you expounded so much on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I I also feel like, you know, all of us, like the one thing that we all have in common, right, is like we're all aging and a lot of us are moving into this period of life, like a lot of my generation and yours, because I think you're Gen X, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a trailing
Yeah.
Gen Xer. Yeah, I'm 44.
Um, Oh, okay. So no, so like yeah. And like I think millennials are like the oldest are like 42 right now. Yeah,
Yeah, they're
so
like 42, 43. Yeah, yeah. I'm right on the cusp. Yeah.
right. We're in that generation that's like starting to like care for parents, care for aging and dying parents, and also at the same time caring for kids. And holy shit, that is a
It's exhausting.
oh, that is a spiritual experience. If like at that would be saying the least I could say about it. It's a
Yeah.
lot, and holding the space for that. And when I think about the shiny music industry and the things that intimidate me about it, or the things that feel fake about it, or the things that I'm like, oh, I don't have that anymore. I'm not like this like super young baby siren, like
Mm.
or like it's like we're all aging,
Yeah,
right? I,
yeah.
I think about that and I think like, oh my God, I would not trade anything to be back in that place because like um, I guess what I feel confident of is that like my music is for us, right? Like it's for
Mm-hmm.
like it's for anybody, but it's like I'm writing for like the folks who are going through this stuff. Um and the thing about it is like I feel like I have job security because we're all going through that and we're
Yeah.
all going to. And particularly since COVID, we all have something collective to grieve. We've all lost a lot, no
Yeah.
matter what that looked like for you. For kids in college right now, that was like most of their high school experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like a big chunk of their childhood.
I teach middle schoolers by day, and like that group of kids,
Oh,
I mean, they were like going through very serious formative years as
yeah.
when they should have been starting school. I mean, think about that.
Uh-huh.
They should have been like kindergarten,
Yeah.
first grade, some of my middle schoolers that I teach, and they just didn't start till later. So like that has far-reaching consequences. I mean, I see it every day in terms of
Yeah.
development socially,
Yeah.
specifically. And
100%.
emotionally too.
Yeah.
Like the emotional intelligence is so much lower, and it's not their
Yeah.
fault. But
Yeah.
like they just didn't. They for years when you're supposed to be learning like how to interact with other humans,
Mhm.
they weren't.
It took such a toll on kids.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of friends who are teachers who are saying we are seeing this every single day
Yeah.
at every level. And so, I think like here we all are just trying to do our best
Mhm.
in the like, alrighty.
And we're back. You're the best. Thank
Yay, of
you.
course, of course. And I probably have about 15
Okay, I
more
was
minutes
just gonna say,
before I have to head it.
let me let you go, but
That's okay.
there's two other. This has been
Yeah,
so wonderful, and thank you so much.
you're
I
so
anticipated you would
welcome.
be great, but you've exceeded my already lofty expectations of you, and I'm so grateful. Thank you.
No,
Um,
thank you, Jason. Seriously, this has been such a wonderful
oh,
conversation.
good, good. I'm glad you made me think of something though right before we cut out, and that is
Yeah.
you were talking about just the enormity of like we're taking care of parents and in my case grandparents, even though my grandmama
Hmm.
doesn't need me. She like still cuts her own lawn. She's 91 years old. But
I love that generation.
she's such a badass. um she like cuts her like mows her lawn with a cane. You know, like she's
Oh
just
my
such a
God, that's
she's
amazing.
she's just a badass. But
Oh,
the idea of like taking care of them plus trying to lead a new generation, right?
yeah.
And us ourselves, you know, half the time I don't feel like I know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm a
Yeah.
fairly successful middle-aged man, and like I don't know what the hell I'm doing half the time. But I'm supposed to lead the kids and tell them
Yeah.
what they're supposed to do and how,
Yeah.
you
You've
know,
got middle schoolers in your
yeah,
hands. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Sorry, kids. But the uh the other thing that I think is interesting about sort of being at this space in life is that, and I was thinking about this morning because, and I hope I'm not breaking this news to you, but Brian Wilson passed away.
Oh my God.
I am breaking this
Oh
news
my
to you.
God.
Okay.
And that's okay. I like intentionally didn't read the news this morning because I
Yeah.
I
too much.
read so
Yeah,
much. Well,
yeah,
I read
yeah,
so
yeah,
much yesterday and I was like, I just want to be centered. Okay.
yeah.
I just have to say he had a wonderful long life and it seemed like his quality of life at the end was really not amazing. And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm really fortunate. I got to see
Mm.
him play Pet Sounds in its entirety. Probably like 10 years ago now. He played at the
Wow.
St. Augustine Amphitheater, and when he was singing and playing, he sounded great. In between, there were
Yeah.
some weird moments, and like he kind of wandered
Hmm.
off for a second and stuff.
Yeah.
But like it was just kind of it was really magical. And then my friends and I we camped at the I love that venue. It's the amphitheater.
Oh,
Have you ever been there? The amphitheater in St. Augustine, Florida.
no.
It's so beautiful. I hope you get to play it
Oh,
someday. But it's adjacent to Anastasia State Park, which is my favorite park in Florida, and just
wow.
stunning. Like the beach is gorgeous, and I always if I see somebody's coming through, I always book a campsite, and then I figure out tickets to the show later because
That's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, because
That's so smart,
yeah,
right?
you just
Because
walk right
like
over. Yeah, yeah.
the campsite must book up really fast.
Real
So
fast.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Especially for bigger names. Like anytime Jason Isbell's in town, I'm like, gotta book that campsite
Campsite.
immediately. Yeah,
That's
yeah. Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I'll figure out tickets.
Oh,
But you can just walk over. And so a bunch of friends, we and I wrote about it. I'll have to find that piece and republish it in honor of
yeah.
him. But I wrote about it and I was covering it. And anyway, so that night we went to the show, had this amazing time, like cooked, campfire dinner, and then went out to the beach afterward, a little buzzed, and
Yeah.
we all went skinny dipping in the ocean.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
amazing. What
yeah,
an
yeah.
amazing night.
Yeah, it was just like one of the favorite nights ever in my life.
Oh,
Just
that's
like yeah, the
great.
freedom of it. Just me and some
Oh my
friends, we just all ran
God.
out there, and
That's the
yeah,
best.
yeah, 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 just
Oh,
so beautiful. But
that's
anyway.
your last Brian Wilson
That's
memory.
that's my
Ah,
real big Brian Wilson memory. Of course I've listened
wow.
to the records, right? I mean, if you love
Yeah.
music, you listen to Pet Sounds a million times.
Oh yeah.
But like I got to see him play it live. But what
Wow.
struck me about it, and something I've been thinking about a lot lately, especially as somebody who's terrified of mortality, is like, um, it used to be if somebody passed away, it was in the paper the next day, or like, if it was somebody that you knew it was word of mouth a couple days later and a trusted person told you or whatever,
Hmm.
or like you had to wait for the obituaries to like see who passed away. And now every time I open my goddamn social media of
I
any
know.
kind, and I've got all of them,
Yeah.
there somebody has died. And so like you're constantly reminded of your mortality. And
Yeah.
if you process that stuff in any way, it's not healthy. It's too much for me to know that like
Mhm.
the guitar player for some random 1960s band died and it's really impacted a lot of people that I love.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like it's like
I
and that's something
know.
I've been thinking about lately is like even if I don't know the person, I'm such an empath. I feel
Right.
so bad for my friends,
Yeah.
that this
We're absorbing all of that energy. Like we're absorbing that
yeah
sadness,
yeah
right? And we're the economy of attention and the economy of social media and like kind of feeding on our emotional energy is really a tough one.
yeah
I think for me, it's like obviously no one who's posting about the death of somebody is thinking about it in that way. They're not thinking
yeah
like, Jason doesn't know this person, but I need him to feel this thing, right? Like,
yeah yeah
they're just sharing something that has happened. But because of the way that Meta has designed these algorithms, anything dramatic or emotional that people react to gets really boosted in the algorithm. So here we are absorbing way more information than like our bodies were designed to absorb, like our nervous systems evolved to absorb, and even much more than like you and I growing up. Like we didn't grow up like this, right? Like you
right
said, you
right
hear it at church, you hear it and you read it in the newspaper, you hear it from a phone call.
right
And so I think it's um it's one of those things where it's like if you're a person who cares deeply about pain in the world, you care about wars, you care about genocide, you care about injustice, you care about people's humanity.
mm-hmm.
Social media can feel like a complete minefield because you just go on there and you're so overwhelmed and you're like, what do I do? And then if you don't contribute to posting about it, which I've taken a bit of a step away from,
Hmm.
personally, of like reposting lots of things about war and violence, not because I don't care about them, but because I'm absorbing that news. I'm trying to be an activist locally in my community,
Hmm.
and I'm trying to donate to organizations that are helping with those things. But I actually think people have kind of become numb to a lot of stuff on social media, and are also terrified of saying the wrong thing. And it's just
I
become so it's not effective. Like social media activism, unless that is your career and you're an
yeah.
activist, is like uh probably 10 to 15% effective, and like 85 to 90% a total energy trap.
I had a stress dream the other night that friends of mine got upset with me because I don't post about Gaza,
Hmm.
and I don't do it because I think genocide's cool. You know,
Yeah, yeah,
like the
exactly.
official
Yeah,
position of me and the Marinade is
yeah,
genocide sucks, and that is a genocide that's happening.
right.
And I don't use that word lightly. I'm somebody who has studied that, who
Yes, exactly.
worked
In
at a
international,
tribunal.
yeah.
Like I have a law degree
Hmm.
that focused on international law,
Yeah,
and you have to have that definition clear in your head. I
right.
am stating very clearly that I believe what's
Hmm.
happening there is a genocide. Um, but I also think that there's so much nuance to my feelings about it that when I go
Hmm.
to post, like right after uh, Biden won the 2020 election, I went to a place where I was like, on social media as much as possible, I'm going to post links to things I've written about
Hmm.
political related matters.
Hmm.
And I did really
Yeah.
well for a while. Every once in a while I slip. The other day I just got so pissed when I that video of the Australian reporter getting shot in
Oh
LA
my
with the
God, I know.
it was just like so shocking, and like
Yeah.
just everything about it was just like
Mhm.
they're not fucking trying to hide that they're shooting reporters,
Yeah.
like and so I fired off like a quick post, but for the
Yeah.
most part, I try to like write long form things about it.
Hmm.
Um, because I just think there's so much nuance and so many things that get missed. And like you said, people get desensitized to it. And I don't think we should be desensitized to genocide. I don't think we should be desensitized to fascism, boots on the ground fascism in America.
Right.
Um,
100%.
you know,
Right. But
well,
but there's one thing when we fall into the trap, and I think a lot of us are learning, it's very easy to fall into just like repost, repost, repost. But
mm-hmm,
when there is no call to action or a
mm-hmm,
specific action that can be
mm-hmm,
made, like, hey, I'm playing at and I am. I've gotten involved with my local indivisible leaders, and I'm played at the No Kings rally last
cool,
week
cool,
in San
cool,
Miguel County, and I'm playing in Montrose this upcoming Saturday. And it's
awesome.
like, I want to do that kind of thing. I know I have an impact locally. Um, but it's like I don't want to just repost trauma porn and not give people something to do, something
Yeah,
to
yeah,
donate
yeah,
to,
yeah.
or even just a petition to sign. And so like, and also I am not an expert, nor am I a news source. And you are
Mm,
actually kind of an expert, but you run a music podcast with
yeah, yeah.
this particular platform. And so it's like I am like not shy about talking about human rights and dignity and war and genocide. And also at the same time, like I try to do that kind of thing. I try to let my songs speak for themselves. And
Mm,
I also just try and like take action offline because um I think like during COVID, since so many of us were so online and there was a lot we couldn't do in person, it felt like that was what we could do. But
mm-hmm.
I just think like um we had like in as fascism encroaches and as we continue to fight it, and I I think very often about the fact that like most Americans are just like completely ungovernable. And that is
It is
both
kind
the
of central to the American condition.
yes, it's like both the greatest
Yeah, yeah,
annoyance
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and the and our saving grace.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
can't tell fucking anybody anything.
Yeah,
You can't tell anybody
especially
to do
Southern
anything.
folks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can't tell me you can't. And I was talking to my
Yeah.
partner last night, and I was like, I'd read an article about Trump declaring that the Confederates are gonna like that the original names for the military bases
Uh-huh.
are going to go back to like the Confederate names, right? And then the
Yeah.
Army releases a different statement that says, well, we're gonna call this Fort Lee again, but it's going to be named after Fitz Lee, who was like a famous like black soldier in the Spanish-American Civil War. So Trump says one thing, Army says something different. And I just like shut my computer and I go, is this all they could fucking do? Really? Really? The shock and awe show is fucking boring. Is this it? Is this it? I
Yeah.
grew up in the South. I grew up among Confederate monuments. Of course, everybody still calls it Fort Bragg. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
if you think this is going to demoralize us, you've got
Yeah.
another thing coming.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
know my people from the
I like
South.
that. I like that.
I
Yeah.
know my people from the South. So I'm kind of just like, whatever we can do to keep our fire alive and to
Yeah.
fight fascism and to fight racism, like
Fuck yeah.
we have to take care of ourselves and each other first. And if we're like zoomed into the social media, like hellhole, and we can't step out of it, then we're not useful. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm like, this is not shock and awe. This is a dog and pony show.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
as my partner said, he goes, the monkeys have gained access to the building, but they don't know what any of the buttons do. Like it's just like
Which is
it's
also
just
pretty terrifying.
yeah, and it's like so there are both terrifying things and ridiculous things happening, and there's also a ton of great things happening that we don't know about that like people are organizing our community in Montrose, Colorado, which is traditionally a pretty red area. We had 1,500 people show
Hell
up
yeah. Hell
in a
yeah.
small western town for the last indivisible event.
Hell yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
There's like barely even a Democratic Party office there before
Hmm.
this last election. So, and this isn't even to say like rah rah for the Democratic Party. I'm just
Sure.
saying like people are paying attention, they're getting out in the streets, they care about democracy, and they're getting organized and they're getting to know their neighbors and they care. And that's great. Those are good things.
Yeah.
So,
I love that
anyways,
attitude. I don't want to keep you longer. I know you got to go. We usually though end on what you're getting down on. So the art that has you fired up right now. It could be music, could be a book you're
oh,
reading,
oh my God.
painting stuff.
Okay, okay. Well, I know I'm like a little bit late to this, but the best book that I read this year is Demon Copperhead.
Oh, I just read
Um,
it like a month ago.
oh my God.
Yeah, I was late to it too.
Did you do the thing where you like for me, I was folding down corners and
Yeah.
underlining. No, like I
That's how
just
I
the
read books anyway, but yes, yes.
oh my God, the writing
It's so good.
was unbelievable. I
Yeah,
would
yeah,
just like
yeah.
read, I would just go like, I need to read you this sentence to my partner.
Yeah, yeah,
Because
yeah,
he's
yeah.
also an artist. And
The
so
dialogue in that book is like it's second to very few. I mean,
it's incredible.
unbelievable how well she captures the dialogue.
It's it's unreal. I whew, um that is really like I've been really into that. I read that this year. I'm looking for another great book to read. I really love cooking when I'm at home. That's
Mm,
kind of like the art I'm into. And I lately have been subscribing to Christopher Kimball's Milk Street
mm,
and getting like really good recipes off of that. And so in terms of like, I think of that as like one of my art hobbies. Oh,
cool.
but one other thing is that I'm rewatching old shows with my partner that either I've seen or he's seen that the other one has not. We're working
Fun.
our way through every season of The Wire.
Mm.
It's amazing.
I never understood it.
Really?
I never
How
understood
far
it.
did you get?
I've given it like four shots. I watched the first
Oh.
see I've watched the first season like three times.
Oh, okay then. Well, there you go.
I it and I love David Simon. I think
Yeah.
is Treme is one of my favorite shows of all time. Like I think Treme is almost flawless.
Okay.
Totally invested in it. I love his dialogue. I love the world he creates in that. in that show. I rewatched part of it with like my ex-girlfriend about a
Mhm.
year ago and was just like, yep, this holds up. This is great.
So good. Yeah.
The thing about The Wire that I don't get is I don't like anybody. I don't like any of them.
I know that's the point. There are no heroes.
I need when I'm watching something, I want my heroes to be flawed, right? I don't need them to be
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah.
Of course, that's a boring hero. But when I watch The Wire, I'm like, I
Mhm.
hate all these motherfuckers.
I know.
And maybe they, I hear that
Except for
later
Omar.
on.
Who can
I
hate
know. I
Omar?
hear that Omar becomes like somebody that you can root for at some point.
Dude.
But
Yeah.
I've just never made it
Yeah.
past like the first season. I tried to watch part of the second season. I was like, God, I hate these, especially because like
Yeah.
and I'm glad that the cops suck, because fuck cops. But
Yeah.
like,
It's rough.
just every single, I don't know. I just had a really hard time. And I don't like. I also don't like because I hate cops so much.
Yeah.
Even if they're like portrayed in a negative light as they are in The
You still
Wire.
don't like
I still am
it.
like, I don't want to fucking look at you. Like, I hate cops that much.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like,
That's
I don't want to
great.
fucking see cops on my screen.
Yeah, well, and it is inherently sort of like yeah, exactly. Like you're in there, you're seeing like the good old boys club functioning in the way that it does.
Yeah.
And but I so appreciate that. You give it such a fighting chance.
Oh yeah,
I
because everybody loves it, and people whose opinions I greatly admire
yeah.
love it, and I'm like, it's got to be me, right? And maybe it is, but like the more every time I've tried it so many
Well, and
times.
you also you went to law school.
Yeah.
Like so, okay. So I have a really hard time watching anything that comes close to relating to the music business. I don't find that entertaining in any
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And it just feels a little bit like shop to me. And The Wire is definitely not perfect by any means. I think it's just like the deep, okay, I think part of this, what I like about it,
Hmm.
and some of those early HBO shows is that we used to have shows that required you to really like buy into the world. And
Hmm.
like there was a bar of entry. Like you had to give a fuck enough to make it through, you know, whatever that first episode demanded of like listening to dialogue that makes no sense.
Yeah.
Um, and there was such world building in those
Hmm.
early shows. And I miss that. Like I think that audiences
Yeah.
are perceived as dumber now, and maybe they are dumber, but like I want shows that ask something of me. And
Deadwood.
Deadwood,
Yeah, yeah.
Deadwood is, oh my God, oh my God.
I fucking
I
love Deadwood.
lost my shit over Deadwood.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
believe me, I like the first episode or two, I was so like, I was like, I don't know about this. I don't know about the writing with women. I don't know about how these women
Yeah,
characters
yeah.
are written. And Colin, my partner, was like, I totally get it. Please just like hang on. And then
Oh,
oh
so
my
this was
God.
okay. So that was one where your partner had seen it, but you hadn't.
Yes, yes,
Oh, fun,
exactly.
fun, fun, fun.
And then I was like curious about just the women characters and how they were written. And I Google and I was having this like debate with him about, whether they were like whether there was any sort of inherent feminism in the writing of these women characters
Mm,
who are all in certain specific supporting roles that are pretty historically accurate in terms of like this living in this mining town, right? Like working as like a prostitute or being somebody's wife and sipping on laudanum. So
hmm.
I'm like, I Google like feminist critique of Deadwood, and I discover that Anne Helen Peterson, who's a writer who I really love, who's like just like a social issues, political, like feminist writer, was obsessed with Deadwood, like loved Deadwood, and wrote her like master's thesis on like picking apart the characters and how they were the women in the show and how they were written. And I was like, okay, all right. So I like read Anne Helen Peterson's thesis and I was like, oh, this is great, right? It's like, um, because like I think now we audiences and maybe it's networks demand this, but they
Uh-huh.
demand things that feel more simple, more safe,
Uh-huh.
right? And I'm
Uh-huh.
like, don't give me fucking simple, don't give me fucking safe. Give
Yeah.
me shit that's interesting,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like
Yeah.
So, anyways, I did love Deadwood too.
That man, that's so great, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. I love that. I absolutely
Yeah.
loved it. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, I've been thinking about that too. Like, again, I gotta let you go, but I've been thinking about that too. Of like the last episode, feature episode of the Marinade that I released is with a
Hmm.
comedian, young comedian named Preston Canavan, and he's like the
Hmm.
funniest guy in the world to me right now. He's based in Orlando area where I live, and I've gotten to see him perform so many times. But one of the things about comedy that I love is that ability to, I believe strongly in that comedy is sacred, but
Hmm.
also like just saying something racist isn't funny, right? So
No,
like if
exactly. Yeah.
if you've got some observation to make that, is going to ruffle feathers, but it's funny and clever and interesting and
Mhm.
not coming from a place of hurt, awesome. I want to hear that,
Yeah.
right? Because I was thinking about how like I know that I'm guilty of this on my show is like I think very seriously about being sensitive and aware of people's backgrounds and attitudes and I can come across as pretty sterile in a lot of ways in terms of my approach to the world, like hyper political correctness, so to speak, like hyper. I mean, it's become a pejorative for racists, but I
Right.
certainly think of
We don't
myself
want to
as
be
hyper woke.
harmful. Like,
Like
yeah, like
yeah,
we don't want to be hurtful or harmful.
yeah.
Like,
But life is
yeah,
messy.
and
And
with our
so like
language. Yeah,
I've
of
been thinking
course.
a lot about how to navigate that world, and
Mm-hmm.
have frank conversations while also being more mindful
Mm-hmm.
because I do think it's important, and that's one of the things that having tie it back to my conversation with Preston is that he does such a beautiful, masterful job of making observations about gender or race or all these things that can get really sensitive, and it's not coming from a place of hate, and it's
Mm-hmm.
funny as fuck, and he'll say something that you're like, oh wow, that's a lot, buddy, but that you can feel even if you don't know the guy. I now know him a little bit, but like even if you don't know that, you can feel it's coming from a place of just observation,
Mm-hmm.
right? More than it is a place of like any sort of bias or anything like that. But confronting those things and having those conversations and not trying to sterilize things, but also acknowledging that um, the world of Deadwood isn't an it is a very, very flawed world, right? But
100%.
it's real,
Yeah.
And so like
100%. Like
I
I
love
live in
that
a
about it.
fucking ex mining town. Like,
Hmm.
and I think like at first when we started watching it, I was like, you
Yeah.
know, like and that and then actually when you pay attention to the writing in Deadwood, like um the women characters there exist. I mean, a lot of it's like fairly historically accurate in terms of what we know about like race, class, and gender during that time. It was
Mm-hmm.
not fucking pretty. So we can't really like analyze it anachronistically and go like, oh, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's, um, but a lot of the what's interesting to me about that show is how people on the fringes, who are more marginalized in that community, because of their race or their sex, um, are um, have a lot of agency on the fringes because it's
Mm-hmm.
the Wild West and they're living in a place where it's like they took all the race and class and gender stuff from back east or from California, from any sort of more civilized place, and they just shook it up and dumped it out, and everyone's kind of figuring it out as they go, and there's no rules.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because like women in that time had a lot more opportunities and agency, with some other trade-offs, and some sacrifices to be made in that area, in places like that. And so,
Mm-hmm.
um, anyways, I think it's just really interesting. And I'll have to check out that comedian,
Oh
Preston.
yeah, check out Preston. He's a
Yeah,
sweetie too. Yeah,
that's awesome.
he's a fascinating guy, and I think he's destined for stardom. Like he's just got
That's
that it
great.
factor. He's also a
Yeah.
musician, very talented musician.
Oh,
He
awesome.
plays trumpet and bass and
That's so
drums and guitar and
cool.
all the things.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Emily, this has been an all-timer. I cannot wait to edit this
Thank
and re-listen to
you.
it and get it out to everybody. I'm so
I'm
excited for your
so
new record.
excited.
I'm really grateful for you're such a thoughtful conversationalist and I'm not surprised. I listened to the records. of course, you're going to be such a thoughtful and intelligent person to talk to, and I'm just really, really grateful for your time. Thank you. I'm
Thank
just
you
so
so
thankful we
much.
connected.
Me too, Jason, and thank you. And I feel like, I have a new friend,
Yeah,
and
for sure, for
I
sure.
hope I get to meet you at, one of our event. Like if you're going to be at Americana Fest, you'll have to let me know.
Yeah, I might actually. My buddy's bachelor party is in Louisville at Bourbon and Beyond
Oh, I'm
that
playing Bourbon and
weekend.
Beyond.
Oh, wait, really?
I'm playing on Sunday. Yes.
We'll be there Saturday, but
Ah,
I haven't booked my plans. That's fucking awesome.
I'm so
Um,
excited.
are you gonna be there Saturday? Like just
Um,
hanging out or anything?
Probably getting in on Sunday because I'm not sure I can afford to put my whole band up for a night.
Oh, right on.
Because
Yeah,
we're going to
yeah,
be
yeah.
driving in from Nashville. Um,
Man, that's
but
awesome.
I'll
Okay.
let you know.
Yeah, I don't know what my plan is. I might try to take that Monday off. I might try to take like most of the weekend off,
Cool.
but I'm starting a new job.
Oh,
So, well,
congrats.
yeah,
Yeah,
thank you. I'm really fortunate. I've I just got a job offer yesterday. Another one.
that's,
So like now
oh,
I have a
wow.
decision to make. So long story. But
Good.
yeah, I know. It's a nice problem to have. Either way I'm good. Like I'm in a good place. But that being said, new job, starting in late
Yeah,
July,
yeah.
September, I'm already asking for 4 days off. Like we'll see.
Yeah, I
We'll see what that
totally understand.
we'll see what that
I
looks
totally
like.
understand. Well, for what it's worth,
Um
we might end up coming on Saturday afternoon, evening and checking in and
so
then,
are you
yeah.
playing you're playing Americana Fest as well?
I'm not playing it officially.
Okay.
I'm just gonna be like a guest performer at an oh boy party on
Oh, cool. On
On
Thursday.
Thursday the 11th, I believe
Okay.
is that right? Whatever
It's
the
been a
Thursday
couple
is.
years since I went to Americana Fest and I had the best damn time.
It's gonna be
And
fun.
yeah, because I'd like to do that because I've been fortunate to connect with the Oh Boy folks quite a bit lately.
Ah, they're so
Um,
great.
oh, everybody's so wonderful.
Oh my God.
Yeah, just had Kelsey Walden on the show.
I saw that.
Yeah,
Yay.
just for the second time, which is awesome.
Awesome.
Um, anyway, I won't keep you
Great.
anymore, but I hope that we're able to catch
Yeah,
up that weekend. If
same.
not, I'm sure that at some point we'll be in the
Yeah.
same room at the same time, and I can't wait to meet you. And again, just thank you so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jason. And we'll be in touch. I can't wait to listen and share.
Sounds great. Be safe camping.
Thanks.
Don't put yourself don't go to the womenoosh.
All right, perfect. Deal.
All right. See ya.
Bye. Take care.
Bye. Emily Scott Robinson, y'all. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank all of you for listening. EmilyScottRobinson.com for all things Emily. Go get physical copies of her wonderful records. What a delightful conversation, y'all. She's so cool. I kept thinking about this talk afterward. I could have talked to her all day. MarinadePodcast.com for all things the Marinade. Follow us on all the socials. We're even back on Facebook, y'all. I guess somewhat reluctantly. I don't know. I'm actually kind of enjoying it, connecting with folks that don't have other platforms. We're on all the things, though. If you prefer Twitter, we're there. You prefer Threads, we're there. You prefer YouTube or TikTok, we're sort of on TikTok, but we're there. We're on all the things, and I'm trying to ramp up all that stuff as much as possible and be more present. So send us a message over there. You can also email us if you have anything you want to talk about. marinadepodcast@gmail.com. We love connecting lately. Folks have been reaching out more and giving me some really helpful feedback. So thank you. If you dig this show, tell me about it. I'm going to do it regardless, but it feels really good to get the feedback that we've been getting lately. And it feels like we have a lot more, we have a lot of new eyes and ears on the show. So welcome everybody. If you're new, thank you. If you've been here for a while, thank you. Subscribe and give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app. Tell a friend about the show. These are all free ways to support the Marinade. Go do that right now while you're listening, please. It makes a big difference for us and costs so little of your time and energy. Also, follow Life's Greatest Hits on Instagram so you can get updates about my other podcast with my dear friend Jordan Foley. We just released recently, as of this recording, we released our episode about Allison Russell's Outside Child. And we're so grateful for the feedback we're getting on that one. People seem to be connecting with this new format we have where we listen to a record together and then talk about it. We have a new episode that we're going to tape as I'm recording this is coming Sunday, but we will have recorded it by the time you hear my voice. 10 episodes, going on 11 deep, and just having an absolute blast. Make sure you subscribe on your podcast app so you don't miss a thing. That latest episode, as I mentioned, of Allison Russell's Outside Child is a damn good one, and it's out there. Thank you for listening. If you really like what we're doing with this Marinade thing, please consider joining our Patreon community. Y'all, $2 a month. You can gain access to Patreon exclusive content like our show, Jason's Journey, where I talk about the moments that shape my creative life and provide a window into the process of making the Marinade. If you've ever been curious about Patreon, now is a wonderful time to dip your toe in the water. I've been trying to do as much as I can over there. I'm actually going to record a Jason's Journey right after I finish this episode, editing this. And you can try a free trial of Patreon, y'all. Check it out. See if you like it. No pressure. Just try the trial. And if you try it for 7 days and decide you don't want to stick with us, that's cool. I get it. But if you do, hey, for $2 a month, you get extra content and you get to support the show. If you want to support the show financially, but you don't want to commit to a monthly subscription, 100% understand that too. You can Venmo or PayPal us. It's just at the Marinade. I just got back from covering Bonnaroo for the 3rd year in a row. Life's Greatest Hits is looking to go on the road. I actually connected with a record store owner in Central Florida yesterday. That's a longer story that I might even tell over on Life's Greatest Hits, that I'm excited about the prospect of us connecting with fellow vinyl lovers and talking about records. In fact, without giving anything away, I connected with one of my favorite record labels recently and have a really cool potential opportunity with them with regard to Life's Greatest Hits. So lots of stuff going on with the Marinade and with Life's Greatest Hits. If you can swing it, we appreciate the financial support. But above all, we're just grateful you listen, y'all. Thank you for listening. Thank you for spreading the word about the Marinade. Thank you for all of your messages and kind words. And until next time, keep those coming. Go out and create something. Cheers, y'all.